Welcome to the Bedlam Brother Podcast. I'm Glenn, and today I am joined by none other than Calvin's coworker at the Science Museum, Chris Thatcher. How you doing, Chris?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. It is just me, though. There's no guys. It's just me by myself here. And you, Chris.
There's so many voices in my head. I will address them all at some point, I'm sure.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, it's at Chris Thatcher 80 on Twitter if you're trying to follow Chris after this. Of course, I'm GC Bedlam Brother on Twitter. Calvin let the podcast wander a little bit. You know, he let it go off the rails, and he didn't upload one for a little bit. So he gave me a call the other day and told me it's back to me for a while.
I don't want to speculate too much, but
right.
I want to pretend like Calvin has actually been abducted by the CIA for some kind of secret government training.
I'm sure Calvin would prefer, you say something like that, something where, oh yeah, Calvin had to do something or whatever, cool, and interesting. And I'm sure really he just is just asleep.
Yeah,
I bet he's being lazy. He got called into work or just something. It's whatever.
Got tired of pretending to adult.
Yeah, for sure. We all know how that goes, though. So, Chris, the one thing that you know better than I think anyone else so far that we've had on the podcast is NFL.
I love
NFL.
NFL.
This is going to be an NFL-centered podcast. And, Chris, we're just going to run through here and just get our takes on the AFC, NFC. Is Tom Brady, are they going back to the Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we can get to that in a second.
Okay.
But, what surprises can we see from this season? Are the Jets going to win a game? That's the real question, here. Are the Jets going to have two running backs play quarterback? Because they don't really have wide receivers.
No.
Christian Hackenberg really can't break a huddle correctly as we're hearing out of camp. So we're just gonna hop right into it. So Chris, we're gonna go through here each division and pick winners of each division.
Okay.
All right, you pick a winner, I'll pick a winner. We'll go from there.
All right.
So Chris, let's start with your favorite division, as I understand, the NFC. Right?
Yeah, the NFC North. Yeah.
All right.
I'm a Packers fan all the way, which I do hear that Bedlam Brothers is loaded with Packers fans.
Yeah. Walter, this one's for you.
Yeah, shout out to all the Packers fans because they're winning the NFC North because the Bears won't do it.
The Bears don't stand a chance.
No.
Mitchell Trubisky has some weapons, but he's not going to be great in his rookie season. Their offensive line is in shambles, but I don't trust the Bears defense.
Okay, so here's the thing about the Bears. I am interested to see the anti-Jay Cutler effect as to how much better does the team get without Jay Cutler. And interested to see what he's going to do in Miami, but we'll actually get to the NFC East here in a little bit. But yes, the Bears don't stand a chance. The Lions, weirdly enough, have a team, I believe, set up for a lot of small bursts, are going to pull out.
Didn't they win like 9 games last year coming from behind, though?
Yeah.
9, that's it's not really one of those things that I see that's repeatable.
It's not. However, man, when you have such a dramatic quarterback, a quarterback that has a flair from bringing you back from behind, in a league, the NFL, above all professional sports, is completely coated in parity. So, to your first question earlier, will the Jets win a game? Absolutely. Against who? We don't know. It could be against the Patriots in some kind of weird game. Parity is everywhere. So games come down to the wire. And Matt Stafford, I'm not saying he's ever going to win a Super Bowl, but what I'm saying is he has a very clutch gene. And he reminds me a lot of John Elway. John Elway, before he had that 2 Super Bowl run at the end of his career, it was a talk about, will he ever win a Super Bowl? Mm-hmm. Is he going to retire a disappointment? And I see a lot of that in Matt Stafford, and I hate to put the cart too far ahead of the horse, but man, when you got a quarterback like that, it makes really, really fun and intriguing football, man. So yeah, I see the Lions actually coming in second, although the Vikings are a weird dark horse in that division. They're young. I mean, what's the status on Teddy Bridgewater right now?
That's the thing I have a question about. So what are we? What are, if you're a Vikings fan right now, would you rather have Sam Bradford or Teddy Bridgewater coming off of what looked to be a horrible knee injury?
Yeah, it was definitely a horrible injury. Right now, you got two quarterbacks that are made of virtual glass at the moment. And their offensive line didn't seem to improve that much. However, a rookie running game that is a dual threat out of the backfield has a chance to make a lot of plays. So I actually see Minnesota somehow, some way, because this happens all the time in the NFL. It doesn't matter what we predict, what we think it looks like on paper. Teams bubble up for some kind of weird reason, and I think that the Vikings could be one of those teams that will shock everybody and go 8-8. Weirdly enough,
see, to me that wouldn't be too shocking. Because when the Vikings had a great year last year, they started out. They're one of the few teams now to start out 5-0, I believe. And now that's not a huge achievement within itself.
No.
Starting out undefeated for however long you can is an achievement. But I just don't see them being able to do what they did last year again. I think that defense is stout. I think the running game is great, but now I think it makes them one-dimensional. I think that now, who are the Vikings wide receivers? I think they drafted the guy out of Ole Miss.
Yeah.
He torched OSU in that bowl game in the Sugar Bowl. Was that last year or so? He's good, but if you got Sam Bradford trying to give him the ball, that's not going to work out extremely well because Bradford's injury prone and Teddy Bridgewater's come back, and I haven't seen much if Bridgewater's going to start or if he's going to start Bradford or whatnot. And then Dalvin Cook, I think it's just going to make the Vikings pretty one-dimensional. I think that everyone's going to know, okay, they're going to hand the ball off a bunch.
Well, you are right. However, with a quarterback like Sam Bradford, who has become a very glorified game manager, and that's such an overused term in NFL today. But yes, it's exactly what he's became. Efficient, completing passes at a high efficiency rate. And when you're a dual threat running back, a lot of times all that does is help you. Because when they are stacking the box against you, this guy can put the ball in your hands. And that always makes those running backs more prone to block, keep that guy on the field. So if they can keep Sam Bradford upright, there's no reason they shouldn't be moderately productive this year. But then again, we're just talking about mediocrity and to aspire to mediocrity. When in all reality, the Packers are the class of that division. They are unrivaled. The team is loaded. They've been within a fart away from the Super Bowl since forever. They're always a terrifying team, and I believe that they have the best player in football on their team. And I know that that's a biased opinion. I know, but I honestly believe that he is the best player in football.
Well, besides Aaron Rodgers, and his hype and stuff like that, he does have an ability to turn Brady-esque, where he turns players who are not the greatest player we've ever seen into a huge player, and then that player, demands too much money from their notoriety, leaves the team, and then no longer they're really anything. Nothing comes to mind off the top of my head, but Rodgers is one of those guys where you just never count. You never count out the Packers in a game. As a Dallas Cowboys fan, I know that myself very, very well. Now Des caught it, but you never count out a Packers. you never count them out. My question to you, moving a little bit forward, Chris, on that is that how do you think the Packers have a chance to win the NFC overall?
I believe they're the favorite at the moment, in all honesty, and I don't believe that that's a biased opinion. That I know that they have a giant amount of holes on the defense. However, the NFL is different. The NFL has changed. Defense doesn't only win championships anymore. I believe that this can be a year that they stay healthy, although going with the historical trend, their defense will be beat up at the end of the year. And I think it has something to do with playing in sub-zero temperatures for forever. But I think that offense alone, the amount of options, and the fact that they have a quarterback that makes his living on throwing his wide receivers open, can turn mediocre wide receivers and make them look like all pros. And that ability is always terrifying for every defense you'll ever line up against. So yeah, I think that the Packers are the favorite, with that saying that the NFC is overall weak this year.
Well, let's move it along a little bit here. I think that the Packers have a very, very good shot at winning the NFC North, and I think that's honestly what will happen. I just don't see the Vikings, the Lions, or the Bears overtaking them. It's hard in my mind to see that happening, and the Packers made it to playoffs last year, made it to the NFC Championship game, and I think it's going to be hard to see them not doing that again.
Yeah.
Maybe the championship game they might fall a little bit short because of that defense, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on to what I think this year is now going to be called the NFC West. Of course, we've been calling the NFC least the past couple of years, the NFC East, but I don't think that's the case anymore with the Cowboys, Giants, and sorry, I almost said Redskins there. That was my bad. But I think that the NFC West, I think that they're one of the weaker divisions in football. Reason being is they've got the Rams, and Jared Goff's now he has weapons with the Sammy Watkins trade, but still it's not going to materialize into much. Goff's not a great quarterback. He is the quarterback you need in the preseason to get to play more reps.
Well,
and he's not. Jeff Fisher's just not the greatest coach in the world,
and he's a horrible scout of talent.
Yeah, and he is the 8-8 coach. And just the Rams as a whole, I just don't think that they're going to do great. Todd Gurley might have a bounce back here. They might have.
I think they did.
They might have. That's worth a Google.
Yeah.
Before we get too far along here, but the Seahawks are good. The Seahawks probably win this division.
Yeah.
I think Carson Palmer's over the hill now.
Yes.
And he is really, to me, it locks in because of injury wise. Larry Fitzgerald can only be so good for so long. The Rams, Sean McVay. Congratulations. Yeah. I forgot who your head coach was. That's how good he is. The Niners have got John Lynch as their GM, but they can't figure out. My thing is, I think the Seahawks are going to win the division by default. I don't think, and here's the thing, I just don't think the Seahawks have any. If you told me next year the Seahawks will miss the playoffs, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, no, the Seahawks aren't going to miss the playoffs. They will win the division. The Cardinals always have that bubble up threat because it's kind of their team is so. I don't want to say old because I'm 37 years old. Let's say experienced. Their team is so experienced that it's like no matter how good of an athlete you are, you try to line up against your uncle in one-on-one, and for some reason the guy just sinks hook shot after hook shot after hook shot. So I feel like the Cardinals, for some reason, are that team that is always going to remain competitive. And in the NFL, if you can remain competitive for 3 quarters and 10 minutes, then the game is anybody's. And if it comes down to a coin toss, you got 50-50 odds. So I think that they're actually a wild card team. The Seahawks are going to win.
You think the Cardinals are a wild card? I just don't.
I think they are.
I think we're going to disagree on this. This is a huge disagreement. I just think Carson Palmer's too old. I think he's too injury prone. I just don't. I mean, whoever that backup is for the Cardinals at quarterback, I think is going to be the guy in week. We're never going to see the backup.
We're never going to see him.
Why not?
When's the last time Carson Palmer
played a whole season?
Was just injured for a season.
Not a whole season, but what I'm saying though is I just don't. Maybe they can make a wildcard spot. I just don't. Carson Palmer's numbers were so horrific last year.
Yes,
they went at a sharp decline. He could have a mini bounce back, and their running back David Johnson is a freak athlete,
and we're going to see a whole bunch of him.
We're going to see a ton of him.
You're going to see an old man safety or an old man quarterback looking at single safety coverage every week, and experience beats single safety coverage more often than not. And if there's one thing that Carson Palmer has, it's definitely experience. You're either going to play him single safety, or you're going to double safety and let David Johnson run wild on your entire defense. And so when that threat is posed, you're always going to be competitive. And that defense, that Cardinals defense, like I said, the NFC is down. The NFC is weak compared to the AFC. I mean, let's be honest, the entire NFL is really top heavy right now. So, but for me to say that just the NFC is down, there's down teams in the AFC too. But I just feel like the Cardinals have that ability to squeak into the wild card. They're going to finish second. And back to your Jared Goff statement. One of the biggest problems that they talked about going into the draft is actually showing up, which is they were incredibly alarmed by his hand size and were convinced that he couldn't throw the ball in the rain. In fact, a lot of teams had him throw wet balls in their private workouts, and apparently he can't hold on to a football. He's got teeny tiny Donald Trump hands, and so I think that he was set up to be a bust. I don't think he should have been the number one pick overall. I think that Fisher and the Rams were completely desperate. That was a pick that was made to give some star power to the move to LA. But in all honesty, it was the wrong pick. I think that we're going to see that time and time again. I mean, Carson Wentz was the far better quarterback. And everybody knew that going into the draft. So why Jared Goff? Yeah, he's got a quick release, and that's cool. But he's got a quick release in dry conditions. Is Los Angeles playing outdoors?
Yeah.
He's going to get rain. He's got to play.
Well, it's L.A.
It is L.A., but the rain.
The away games, yeah.
Yeah,
but it's Los Angeles.
Yeah, it is. It is. He'll go up to San Francisco. Now, Arizona's not ever going to get rain. Seattle plays indoors, right?
No. Seattle plays outdoors.
Yeah, they play outdoors. So, yeah. He's going to see rain, and I think that he's going to be exposed just for poor attributes. Sadly, I feel like a lot of times, I mean, you hear people say all the time, if I was 7 foot tall, I'd dominate the NBA. Well, there's a lot of people that say that. If Jared Goff didn't have midget hands, he'd be an all-pro quarterback. So, Niners, I think that they were the team that stole the draft. They completely exploited the Bears' desperation for a quarterback and stole two anchors that they needed for their defense in the first round. I think that the Niners actually had laid a solid foundation, and I would give Lynch an A+ on the job that he's doing so far. Shout out to all my Niners fans. I know a lot of you guys.
John Lynch did it. He really killed the Bears in that draft.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
it wasn't even funny.
For one spot, the Bears traded. I haven't seen anything like that in forever.
Mm-hmm.
That was amazing by him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I feel like there's more of that to come. I feel like there's going to be a smart moves, which after that, it's up to the coaching staff to execute. And who hires the coach? Then John Lynch. The GM hires the coach. And I think that he's going to completely change the culture of that football team. The biggest question is, how much will ownership completely bury it, which they have been doing for quite some time. But
yeah.
Seahawks, the clear favorite in the NFC West, just by default.
Well, let's move this along just a little bit here. So I honestly just don't think the NFC is going to be really good at all this year, and you have a very different viewpoint, which makes it for a good podcast, I guess. But
yeah,
I understand David Johnson's basically the entire Cardinals team. I understand Tyrann Mathieu will be back this year on defense. I just don't get it. I I just think the Cardinals just don't have the. But that's different viewpoints. So we'll move a little bit farther along here.
Okay.
Let's talk about that NFC South.
NFC South. Yes.
So you've got the Super Bowl contenders last year. You've got the past. Well, you got the past 2 NFC Super Bowl. Losers, of course, but the past 2 NFC, Super Bowl guys, NFC winners, in both the Falcons and the Panthers. What are your thoughts about the NFC South this year?
Well, okay, so there's 3 quarterbacks starting in that division. 1 has won a Super Bowl, 2 have played in it. One of the, in all honesty, arguably the best quarterback division in all of football. Jameis Winston had a monster year last year, made leaps and bounds on what was already a promising start. I play in a fantasy keeper league. I kept Jameis Winston, weirdly enough, just looking at the numbers and the upside and the sheer amount of weapons that they're surrounding him with. They're a young team, but man, they are a fast-growing team. A scary team for the NFC in the future. The Falcons are the favorites. However, we'll see how the Panthers respond from a mediocre season last year. They really, really jumped the shark after that Super Bowl. They had a Super Bowl hangover. So let's not rule out the Falcons having that same effect. How hungry are they? How do they respond to that Super Bowl loss? Because that was one of the most crushing Super Bowl losses you can ever imagine.
Oh my God, 28-3 is put it on shirts everywhere.
Yeah. They were ready to go, and they gave it away. Gave it away. No, they didn't give it away. Belichick took those from them.
Belichick capitalized on every single opportunity the Falcons gave him. And then the Falcons just threw the ball. I understand that's their game.
Yeah.
But Shanahan's gone, and honestly, it is what it is. If we do it all over again, I would tell the Falcons to run the ball.
Yeah.
A lot more of that game. But it is what it is. Congratulations, Patriots.
I think that the Saints are going to go 5-11, and Drew Brees will once again throw for 5,000 yards. That's all I got with the NFC South.
Drew Brees has that. He
will
has
throw
that
for
thing.
5,000 yards in his sleep.
Do you think Drew Brees? This is a question for you, and this takes us back to a little bit of AFC West Chargers kind of a history here for everyone who knows or doesn't know. So Marty Schottenheimer is the most stubborn NFL coach maybe ever in the entire world.
Yes,
he did want his owners to be given the satisfaction that Phil Rivers might be better than Drew Brees, which today we're not sure. Phil Rivers is the one without a ring, so we're not sure. But we're not sure here. Phil Rivers has the NFL stature to be an amazing quarterback if his entire team would be healthy for a season.
Yeah.
So here's my thing. In week 17, week 16, the Chargers are playing a meaningless game. It's in the fourth quarter. Drew Brees should have been pulled.
Yeah.
They're in the Chargers in the playoffs. Game meant nothing. So, here's my thing. Drew Brees, gets his shoulder separated. Team doctors, other doctors are worried he's never going to play NFL football again.
Yeah, that shoulder was jacked.
The Chargers just move on. Do you think Drew Brees, after all this happens, and he wins the Super Bowl, after Hurricane Katrina, he brings so much to that New Orleans city. Do you think Drew Brees has ever called up Marty Schottenheimer and go, "Hey, thanks for not taking me out of that game because now I got a ring."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where I don't think Drew Brees would have a ring if he was still in San Diego. Well, now LA, but you know what I mean.
I don't. Ultimately, hindsight's always 20/20.
Right.
Those fans that were in that arena paid money, and a lot of them paid money to see Drew Brees. He's the starting quarterback, and no matter what, the starting quarterback will always be the face of your franchise. Now, I'm not saying that had anything to do with it. I'm just saying that maybe Drew Brees didn't want to come out. Maybe because we all know how competitive Drew Brees is. So I don't want to blame that on Marty Schottenheimer. In fact, I I blame the lack of Chargers' success on ownership. I thought that when they got rid of Schottenheimer, that was the downfall of because they let him go. What were their record? What was their record? 14-2 or 13-3 that year, and they just let him go.
Well, I mean, no, they weren't. They didn't have 14 wins.
Yeah, they were. I think they were 13. Yeah, I think they were 13-3. Marty Schottenheimer's last year, and it was one of the most shocking firings ever. And I get it. I think it was because they had issues with Brian Schottenheimer, and Marty wanted him to stick around. They didn't. It was something weird with his son, but yeah, they decided that they needed to let him go, and they were a terrifying team that year. They were Super Bowl favorites. You look at the touchdown output simply by LaDainian Tomlinson alone that year. Had a record-setting season. Phillip Rivers.
You're right. The Chargers were 14-2, and then
they
fired
were 14-2, and they lost to New England. They lost to New England. What's the long list of people that have lost to the Patriots?
Okay, I do want to say this. The Chargers are the team. We still got the NFC East. I understand that. Thank you, Cowboys fans. We'll get to that in a second here, and we still haven't finished talking, in my mind, at least, about the NFC South yet. Here's my thing. As a Chargers know about, of course, Calvin was born in the San Diego area. Well, he's born in Ventura, but he lived in San Diego for some time, or there's something going along with that. I don't understand it. But Calvin is dabbling some Chargers fandom, I guess. And from what I understand, the Chargers are maybe the most dysfunctional team nobody talks about. I don't know really what historically dysfunctional. Mm-hmm. Do you have a great coach who leads to a 14-2 record? You fire him? I mean, Chris, this wasn't like 20 years ago. This was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We're a decade later, and no one's really even talking. No one anywhere is talking about this. The Chargers have now completely, now I'm going to say some huge quotation marks so that people can't see me, rebranded themselves by moving to LA and moving to a 30,000 seat stadium, which I do want to get to in a second when we get to the AFC Chargers. But man, everyone talks about the Jets being dysfunctional. Everyone talks about for so long the Browns being dysfunctional and just being a terrible organization, stuff like that. Really, the Chargers don't get enough credit as being dysfunctional.
Yeah, the Chargers don't get a lot of credit for being dysfunctional, and mainly because they've been able to remain competitive. They're that cat that's always chasing the laser pointer. It's a prey that they're continually chasing, and for some reason it literally manifests into nothing but a ball of light. And I think that ownership with the Schottenheimer firing, because say what you want to about Marty Schottenheimer, what Schottenheimer was doing with that team, what he created with that team, was the start of something that was special. Players in their prime. Phillip Rivers was budding. Antonio Gates was a tight end like we had never really seen at that point.
He's the prototypical basketball too. Rico Gathers, by the way, Dallas Cowboys, I guess practice squad last year and Dallas Cowboys roster spot this year. He owes his entire football career to Antonio Gates.
Okay, so that year that the Chargers went 14-2. What was that? The 30 touchdown year by Tomlinson?
It might have been 31, 30.
Yeah, where he set the record. I think that they were just denied, but we'll get to the AFC at some point. But yes, the Saints. Sorry, Saints, we didn't mean to cut you guys short. However, that was a good point that was brought up. Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer. They wanted to jump on the Phillip Rivers train, which is understandable. Teams get seduced by young quarterbacks, especially when you threw a lot of money around. Not only that, there was a contract dispute Phillip Rivers' rookie year because since he was traded for the number one pick, he wanted more money than Eli Manning. They paid Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers was getting paid a lot of money to sit on that bench. They didn't have any plans to part with Drew Brees, weirdly enough, that I know of, other than the fact that teams were uncomfortable with his size and stature, and it was a different time in the NFL. now it seems ludicrous to get rid of Drew Brees for Phillip Rivers, as great as Drew Brees has. But hindsight's always 20/20, man. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Saints. This is the honeymoon's over, man. You guys are about to dwindle into mediocrity.
And the NFC South always surprises me. Every single year there's a team out of there that surprises me. I didn't think the Falcons were going to do at all good last year. I just didn't think they'd be able to, like 2 or 3 years ago, the Falcons were great. Mm-hmm. Then they had a bad year. Then they rebounded and they went to the Super Bowl. And now I think they're going to have the Super Bowl hangover and they won't do anything real good again. I think the Buccaneers could do really, really well in that division.
Yeah.
With the pieces they have in place. Jameis Winston, as you said before. Mm-hmm. I think I'll see a lot of potential in that guy. I've seen him play, actually, which has been remarkable.
And he just throws to Evans hundreds of times a game.
Well, you've got Mike Evans, you've got Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah. And the additional weapons that they added this year. Offense.
Gerald McCoy, defense, you guy.
Oh, yeah, man. The Bucs are a team that's coming on strong. But like I said, the NFC South is the best quarterback division in football between Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, and Drew Brees.
No argument there.
Yeah.
No argument there at all.
So if it's a quarterback league, that's a team that could be, or that's a whole division that could play an exciting brand of football all year long. Will any of them win the Super Bowl? I honestly expect the Falcons to take a dip this year. Man, because I tell you, I don't know if there's a prescription for butthurt, but if anybody deserves to be butthurt, that's the Falcons, man. They got torched, dude, and that's embarrassing on the biggest of stages. But they're pros; they know how to bounce back. But the Falcons, for years, you talked about teams that you just didn't think were going to do it. The Falcons, as far as talent, facing one man to the other, have been one of the most talented teams in the NFL for the past 5 years, and for some reason hadn't been able to make that click. So they've been paper champions for a long time. As far as, the combination between Matt Ryan and Julio Jones is terrifying for anybody, any opposing cornerback and safety to have to line up against. They shaken their boots looking at that combination. So they're always going to be competitive if they can just lean on that.
And as people should be. I mean, they're amazing. Yeah. That duo was amazing, especially with I always get this wrong. Tevin Coleman. Yeah. Tevin Coleman. I always get that wrong. Just amazing players overall. Moving on a little bit. So let's get to that last division in the NFC, the NFC East.
Yep.
Which is, I think, the most hyped division in the NFL right now. Is that possible? I mean,
it's just so
overall,
hyped.
There's just so much stuff going on with it. Of course, as I have said previous amount of times, and I will continue to reiterate until somebody shuts me down. Yeah, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I understand. I've been Dallas Cowboys fans for I think 10, 15 years or so, watching my dad growing up and stuff like that. Real good stuff, but I don't think the Giants are that good. No. Their defense isn't. Yeah. I just want to say that Eli Manning is not a great quarterback. The running back situation the Giants have is always weird. Mm-hmm. The Eagles are not very good. The Eagles just do strange things, but they do have some pieces there.
Here's the scary thing about the Eagles. How much progression does Carson Wentz make? I mean, he looked like a pro from day one. He didn't look rattled ever, which is funny coming from where he came from to go into Philly, a notoriously brutal fan base. And he won them over day one. And I think that Philly is the sleeper in this division just simply because with young players like that, you don't know where they're going. Now, the Washington football team is a dumpster fire. I don't even think that they qualify as an NFL team right now. Rumor has it they're thinking about joining the Arena League just to get a couple of wins this year. I'm kidding, but
wow,
they're so
Chris,
awful. No. Look,
hey, they have Terrell Pryor. Chris, they have Terrell Pryor.
They have Terrell Pryor, and they have Kirk Cousins. They do, but that organization is in shambles. Why haven't you paid Kirk Cousins yet? Why is that contract still an issue? It's not like you are going to get a better quarterback. And let me tell you, if there happens to be a better quarterback pop up at free agency, they are not going to the Washington racist team name. In all reality, if you think about that, it's a horrible PR move. It's a horrible PR move to keep that name. And I think that the NFL probably needs to intervene on that because they will win free agency from time to time because they will overpay for some mediocre players that will only create at best a mediocre situation. Now look, Kirk Cousins and Terrell Pryor could get on some and let's not forget, I honestly think that Reed is the most underrated tight end in all of football.
Jordan Reed?
Yeah, dude. Oh man, he was on my fantasy team last year. I loved him. But their passing game and their running game has a lot. Samaje Perine, I think, is going to actually surprise a lot of people this year. Being put in short yardage situations, goal line situations, he's going to be productive. And I honestly believe that can happen. But I believe that Dan Snyder is going to prevent that from happening by simply just being Dan Snyder.
That organization needs a refresh.
Yeah.
Needs to hit that refresh button on, I would say, basically everything. I don't think Kirk Cousins is taking to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. I think he could be a great game manager, but that term, like you said before, is overused.
I think he's better than a game manager. I think he's a great quarterback on a really crappy front office and crappy situation. You look at his numbers. Who's putting up better numbers? I mean, the list of quarterbacks that are putting up better numbers than Kirk Cousins over the last 2-3 years. It's a really small list. You look at that quarterback rating. You look at the efficiency in which he does perform. You look at the fact that he was when he was coming out of Michigan State, people believed that this guy could have been a first-round pick. There was a lot of weird conversation about, who could really surprise people? Kirk Cousins. And pairing him with Robert Griffin, they sitting behind him, he slid in when RG3 got hurt and looked like he had been running that team for the past 2.5 years. Every time Kirk Cousins steps on a football field, he's in control. And at the barest of minimums, that's what you need from a winning quarterback. And he has that. And there's a savvy that you just can't teach. There's an X factor that I believe Kirk Cousins possesses. And it's up to Washington whether or not they're actually going to let the world see that at this point, I believe.
Yeah, my thing though is the Redskins aren't going to do anything for the next 2 years. They just don't have a chance. The Cowboys have rebounded. The Ezekiel Elliott stuff they got to figure out. That's something that the Cowboys really got to figure out here. But the Giants are always in contention. Carson Wentz and the Eagles, as you were just saying, are going to be there. Are going to be around. They're going to have things happen. Well, they're going to be decent this year. The Giants are going to be decent this year. Just because I don't think really there's one team in the NFC. Now, the Cowboys had the number 1 overall seed last year in the NFL. In the NFC. Yeah. They were amazing, impressive. Came out of nowhere. Yeah. Dak Prescott really took over that team, took it by the reins. I don't think Jerry McFadden is or Alfred Morris together even, or anywhere close to Ezekiel Elliott. I don't think. No. So Ezekiel Elliott, I don't know. The NFL needs to put out some press release on it, and he needs to.
Well, he's got the suspension.
But did he appeal it?
He is appealing.
Right.
It's not reached the front office yet. But here's the thing, and I want to say this. on both ends. This is the second time a situation like this has arose for Ezekiel Elliott. It's also the second time that after the story has begun to settle and fizzle, that proof of the female in that situation setting up and creating lies to paint that situation. Now, I will not be the person to victim blame, so I'm not going to comment on my opinion of what happened out of respect for those women involved. But I will say this, whether Ezekiel Elliott is guilty or innocent, one thing that he is definitely guilty of is putting himself in horrible situations.
Yeah.
And that is the price that you pay, that the Cowboys are paying right now, for having a boatload of talent with no veteran voice. And if there is a veteran voice, who is it?
Jason Witten?
But Jason Witten is a recluse, and he's a veteran voice in the locker room.
And
who's the one that's going to show up to the club and say, "Dude, we have two-a-days tomorrow. You need to go home right now."
That's the thing.
That's the biggest problem.
I don't think it's Des Bryant. I think he's the closest thing they have. So
yeah, well, he's the closest thing to the most vocal leader. But I do think, I honestly believe, and you were talking to someone who is not a Cowboys fan. I'm just going to say right off the bat, I don't like the Cowboys. This is the Cowboys division. I am a Dak Prescott fan, because I like stories about NFL quarterbacks that pass all the intangible tests, but for some reason scouts don't jump on them because of some kind of old, outdated philosophy as to let them slide in the draft. When we are taught time and time again in all professional sports, the way we are evaluating talent is completely changing, and you just can't look at a guy that shows up in the system at 6'5", 235 with poor feet, however, a rocket arm, and say, "This is our golden boy. We're carrying this guy's carrying us to the championship." Dan Marino doesn't exist anymore. It's a different NFL. So Dak Prescott had everything the NFL teams were looking for, and the Cowboys stole him in the third round. That's smart evaluation by the Cowboys, and I'll give Jones credit for that.
That's rare by the Cowboys, too. Just want to say.
I don't think so. I think that the Cowboys are great at evaluating talent.
Not. Morris Claiborne?
What about him?
He
got confused in NFL zone defenses, however, has progressed every year since then and becoming...
The Cowboys let him go.
Yes, they did.
They traded up for him as a sixth. Now he plays for the Jets.
Okay, but here's the thing. Okay, so they bid on Claiborne.
Yeah.
Every other team in the Cowboys situation would have did the exact same thing the Cowboys did.
No other team traded up for him.
No other team did.
Only the Cowboys traded up for him.
But I got to tell you, there is something seductive about LSU defensive backs. That's and you can ask any NFL team. Those LSU defensive backs look great at the combine. They look great on film. Teams bought into Morris Claiborne. Morris Claiborne is just a guy that just didn't pan out for whatever reason. I think it's getting confused by zone defenses. Poor tutelage on that behalf, and maybe they overestimated his ability to conceive those. But the fact is, the talent was there. The talent was there, and not only that, a lot of teams saw Claiborne as an NFL. This is the captain of the future captain of our defensive backfield. That's what a lot of people saw. So I can't blame the Cowboys on that. Their left tackle, Tyron, why am I forgetting his last name? Smith. The best offensive lineman in football. I completely shamed them for drafting him because I was stupid and naive and thought that he was way too young to take a chance on that eye. And I look stupid. He will be the youngest player to play in the NFL for a long time. Players aren't going to be that young coming in the NFL anymore.
No.
And so for that very reason alone, for my own stubbornness, I thought that I was smart in saying that, and I look stupid. Zach Martin, Zach Martin, how they've put that offensive line together. The Cowboys have made a terrifying team for a long time. Someone needs to be in Ezekiel Elliott's ear at all times. I think that we're going to see a spike in Dak Prescott's production. I think he's going to look like a top 5 quarterback for about 5-6 weeks. And then he's going to come back and the team's going to settle down. I think that the Cowboys are going to win this division. I think that this 6-game suspension is going to ring true with Ezekiel Elliott. I think he's going to spend 6 weeks really thinking about a lot of the decisions and situations he's put himself into. So I think the Cowboys are the clear winner in the weakest division in football.
All right. Well, let's move right along here. We're getting a little long in the tooth.
Oh
on
yeah,
time
sorry, man. Yeah.
No, we're good. We're good. I think the Cowboys for sure will win the division. That's my thing.
Yeah.
I just don't think any of the teams that close. I think the Cowboys could slip up a couple times, but I think they're going to win the division. And then to go back, I think that the Panthers will win the division in the NFC South. Just to relapse a little bit here. You feel me on the NFC South?
Dude. Well, I think we're all in agreement on the
last two.
NFC East and the NFC South. It's the Falcons and the Cowboys. All
perfect. Well, we're gonna make this just real quick. AFC East, Patriots.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. You can't bet against them.
Patriots in a league that is riddled with parity. This is the biggest surefire conclusion that could ever exist in football, that the Patriots will play and win the Super Bowl.
Regardless of literally anything.
It's really so unfair.
Yeah.
About how that team is put together and how other GMs continually let the Patriots win. They comply with those trades. They comply with all of those things. They're cutting players that the Patriots are like, oh man, I scouted. An article came out last year in which the year that Rob Gronkowski was a 3rd-round tight end, the Patriots had Gronkowski as their number 1 player in the entire draft, coming off of a horrible back injury in college. And they said, we can steal him in the 4th round. We'll take him in the 3rd. And the way they evaluate talent, it's because they don't get caught up in this good old boy mentality of how we evaluate talent anymore. They're completely changing with the trends of the league. Not only that, creating the trends in the league. Teeny tiny slot wide receivers was not really a thing until Belichick came along.
Yeah, that's true.
And now everybody has them. Everybody has a boatload of wide receivers that look like they just rolled off of a kindergarten bus.
Cole Beasley.
Yeah, everybody's got them. So yeah, the Patriots.
Well, all right. Let's keep going here.
Yeah.
AFC. It's AFC South.
AFC South. Man.
I'm personally thinking that Deshaun Watson and the Texans.
Yeah.
I think Watson's an upgrade over Tom Savage and
Without
Brock Osweiler.
Yeah.
And you've got that incredible defense.
Mm-hmm.
You've still got DeAndre Hopkins. Lamar Miller's still there.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you slot in a rookie QB who Dak Prescott-esque kind of type of situation.
Yeah.
Why not?
I think that the AFC South is one of the more intriguing divisions in all of football because let's not rule out the Colts. They have the best quarterback in that division, without a doubt. They have a guru at quarterback. He is ready to play every single week. However, the sack rate has got to come down. The Titans, I think, are the class of that division, weirdly enough, and it's only because it's a weak division. And the Texans are going to be nipping at the Titans' heels. So I think it's the Titans to win this division. I think Marcus Mariota only continues to improve.
Yeah, I think the Titans could finish second in that division because the Colts don't have an offensive line. That's my thing. If the Colts get an offensive line, man, you're paying Andrew Luck a ton of money, and you can't get no line to block for him. That's just obscene. I mean, I can't tell you who plays for the Colts defense. So,
we don't need to. I don't think they could tell you who plays for their defense.
So, number 93, Robert Sweeney. Am I right on that?
Yeah,
he's right. He now plays for the Cardinals. He now plays for the Cardinals, but he's the last member. God, I know I'm
Dwight
wrong
Freeney?
on that. Dwight Freeney. Wow.
Yeah.
Robert Sweeney.
Robert Sweeney.
Dwight Freeney, yes. Now playing for the Cardinals and still having an NFL career. Yeah. He's the last Colts player that I really remember from before Andrew Luck got there. And I know the Colts got some other guys on there and stuff like that. But it's not good for the Colts. I think the Titans could win the division. The Titans have, they have DeMarco Murray.
Who won the division last year?
Texans. They slid into the playoffs.
Well, I knew they went into the playoffs.
There wasn't a wild card. They won. They won.
Yeah, I think that they're going to win the division. I think that the Texans have the best defense in that division, head and shoulders above everybody else, with enough weapons on offense to make Deshaun Watson look adequate on his rookie campaign. So the Texans, I think, could slide in with a wild card position, possibly, but the Titans got this one. I don't see much competition in that.
Well, you think the Titans are going to win?
I think the Titans are going to win.
I don't know about that. I don't think the Titans are there yet. Defensively, I don't think the Titans are there yet. And here's the thing: Texans play every other team in that division twice. Mm-hmm. I think the Titans could lose one time to the Colts and could lose one time to the. It's sad to say, the Jaguars. And Blake can't hit an open receiver Bortles. So that's the thing. And I just think it's the Texans division to lose. You got J.J. Watt, you got Jadeveon Clowney. Now in his Clowney's third year.
He's entering his prime.
Entering his prime. Yeah. Got Watt in the middle, maybe latter half of his prime. Yeah. And you just got other guys on that team who can make a lot of plays.
Terrifying defense. But they have a rookie starting at quarterback, which is always a little iffy. It could go either way.
And honestly, I think that Tom Savage could start out the season for them. And I think that they could defer to Watson in the end. But here's the thing. Watson won a championship in college. Yeah, I don't see the moment getting too big for him. And that's what I worry about with a lot of rookie QBs in the NFL. Yeah. My biggest worry about Mitchell Trubisky, it's not that he's a bad quarterback because his mechanics fall away or because he's no longer able to read a defense or because he loses mobility, running around the pocket and stuff like that. My biggest worry about Trubisky is the moment it gets too big for him because he played in North Carolina and he didn't win games. He played one season starting quarterback and he just didn't win a lot of games, right? Mm-hmm. My biggest worry about Watson is that he just won't be able to make it work. And it's going to be too much too quick for him. And that's a lot of rookie QB questions as well, and I understand that. But my worry about Watson is not that the moment's going to get too big for him, which is my worry with a lot of quarterbacks that are rookies.
My biggest thing with Deshaun Watson is scrambling quarterbacks coming out of the NFL have happy feet. So bad. So setting their feet and delivering that strike from the pocket it feels like wearing your pants backwards to a lot of young quarterbacks. There's something that is innately unsettling. So it's not the moment. It's those 4 defensive linemen and 2 edge rushers coming at you that are incredibly terrifying and make you want to hurry things up, scramble when you don't need to. And I'm not insulting his intelligence. In fact, I believe that Deshaun Watson mentally is ready for the NFL. I think that creating that comfort level in the pocket, knowing when to roll out, is the hardest thing to teach young scrambling quarterbacks. So I think that there's going to be growing pains and it's going to be a learning curve. And that's why I'm giving the edge to the Titans.
All right, we differ on that one then for sure. I think Watson's not going to have too happy a feet. I don't think he was that much of a scrambler in college. I think that he uses mobility pretty well, getting out of the pocket and stuff like that. And I just don't honestly see it being that big of an issue. But that's something we can definitely, as the season progresses, Chris, we got to get you on another podcast.
Yeah.
So, moving along here. So, now it's the real time for all of you Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, Las Vegas Raiders, that AFC West. Who do you see in that division? Because I'll tell you.
Raiders.
I'll tell you. It's a tough one.
It is a tough division. It's a historically competitive division. It's a division that contractually can't break up.
Yeah.
They know each other and they know each other well. But the Raiders, they look like the team. I don't see the Broncos have a carousel at quarterback. They have no idea what direction they're even thinking about going in at quarterback, and that's never that never sounds
Trevor
like a division.
Siemian,
Yeah, no,
not Paxton Lynch.
Yeah, they don't know.
I think those are the two options they've got right now.
That's it. And you want to know something? Those two are so uncertain that there could be someone bubble up in the preseason. They're like, well, why not give this kid a chance?
Why? If I'm the Broncos, was Tony Romo just unreachable?
I think
Tony Romo's up there in years, and he's older. But you couldn't call Tony Romo for. I mean, Peyton Manning made it through and won a Super Bowl, barely throwing the football, using a lot of his mind, using a lot of his experience and stuff like that you've said before on this podcast. I don't know, man. I feel like that sounds like a weird thing not to be able to try to find somebody else out there.
From what I understand, that the Texans and the Broncos both reached out to Tony Romo, and I think Tony Romo was very comfortable with his decision to move to the broadcast booth. There's something about breaking your back that really makes you evaluate what you're doing for a living. I was a stuntman for years, and I broke my back. And I can tell you that's a sobering experience. Now I work at a science museum. So, I think that's what it came down to. I think that they would love to have Tony Romo taking snaps. Even if Tony Romo came up to them today and said, hey, give me a shot, I think they would love it. I don't think Tony Romo's doing it. I don't think he wants to. I think, man, when you look back at Tony Romo, it's like I went to a Division II or Division III school, and I became the highest paid player in football for quite some time. I won at life. Tony Romo won at life. He's playing with house money at this point. Life's good. Nothing but respect for Tony Romo. I made so many Tony Romo jokes in my life.
Yeah.
Just like everybody else did. But,
right. Haven't we all?
But guess what? Props to Tony Romo. I respect how he did it, and I got a lot of respect for him. And so enjoy retirement, man. You deserved it. So I think it's the Raiders, man. The Broncos, when you got that much uncertainty at quarterback, never look like even a division winner. The Chiefs, weirdly enough, are such a gimmick team. And I feel like setting up for the future with leaving Alex Smith, who you talk about game manager. Alex Smith will never lose you football games. He won't win you any either, but he won't lose you football games. With a young stud quarterback coming up that I think was a good pick, especially since you don't need to play him right now. Chargers are consistent. Let's hope that they can keep that consistency. They're the team that can push the Raiders. But right now, this is the Raiders division, man. They melted last year when their quarterback went down. But they were arguably the best team in the AFC for quite some time. And it was a team that snuck up out of nowhere. And they made their quarterback the highest paid quarterback in NFL history. And it's because he's sold everybody on his ability. I saw a video yesterday of him throwing a 40-yard pass behind his back. Did you see that video?
Yeah.
Oh, it was pretty cool, man. I was like, hey, man, it looks like he's ready to go. Those Raiders seem loose, man. And when you see a team loose, that typically comes with confidence. And confidence typically comes from results and produces results. So I think it's Raiders all the way.
All right. Well, I'm actually going to throw a curveball. I think the Broncos could do it.
Okay.
And the reason being is their defense. That's it.
They have the best defense in football.
Yeah, and I don't think it's their offense just doesn't have really anything. But I think the Broncos' defense is gonna be able to keep them in games. They didn't make the playoffs last year, which I think is weird. But I think that Paxton Lynch or Trevor Siemian, I think one of them could figure it out. And they still have Demaryius Thomas on that team. So I think that I think things could be figured out.
Yeah.
I'm probably wrong. No matter what, it probably is the Raiders division. That's what everyone says, and the Raiders look like such a surefire thing. But that's what makes me worried.
Oh yeah,
is when everyone goes, oh, it's yours, and you sign Marshawn Lynch in the offseason, and that's kind of other stuff like that, and I love Marshawn Lynch, but just a weird thing to sign a dude after he's been sitting out for a whole year.
Yeah,
and that's what worries me the most. I think the Chargers are going to have one of the worst seasons in the NFL this year, though.
You think so?
I think you move to a stadium where that you only have 30,000 seats in, and 2/3 of your stadium might be rooting against you at every single game. It's gonna be weird.
Absolutely.
Because here's the thing. For example, Chris, let's say I lived in LA. Okay. Let's say I lived in LA and I am a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Yeah.
Well, my best shot at seeing an NFL game is going to be the Rams or the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
Ticket price can be lower because of that. Okay. Let's say the Chargers prices are always lower. I'm probably going to go to a lot of Chargers games then. And I'm not going to be rooting for the Chargers. I don't think, maybe I'm just not rooting for a team. But the Chargers are not going to play with a big home crowd. They just aren't. I mean, LA didn't. LA went 20 years without a football team. Then they got the Rams. Cool, they got the Rams.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome, they got the Rams. Hey, can we get the Raiders? Hey, can we get the Raiders? Hey, can we get the Raiders? Oh, you got the Chargers. I don't think. And this is me. I don't think LA was really asking for the Chargers. I think the Chargers kind of put themselves in that position, and now the Chargers are going to be in a position where that they have to wait out until the Rams facility is built. Then they start renting out the facility from the Rams. They've got colors similar to the Rams. It just seems like a very weird position to be in. So let's say you're an LA Chargers fan. Fantastic, good for you. But are there 15,000? I mean, it's a weird. There's not a ton of those people out there that are huge. And okay, I don't know what a round trip flight is from Oklahoma City to LAX, but if it's $100, a plane ticket to an NFL game is probably less than that. And all of a sudden it's cheaper to go see an LA Chargers game than it is a Dallas Cowboys game.
So you mean to tell me that the Rams are the Lakers and the Chargers are the Clippers?
Yes, 100. Well, except for that the Chargers aren't going to go to the playoffs repeatedly.
Okay, all right.
That's my thing.
I think Jared Goff's a bust.
I'm not saying Jared Goff's great. I'm not saying Jared Goff's good.
Oh yeah.
I'm saying that the Chargers are not good.
Okay.
The Lakers could be very comparisonly wise to the Rams right now. In very much rebuilding mode with rookie and Todd Gurley or Lonzo Ball, and whatever comparisons we can draw, I will try. But what I'm saying is that the Chargers got a lot going on.
I feel like
that's a lot of storylines to be going through. That's a lot of guys come back from injury after past season. There's just there's a lot going on as Chargers, and it's hard for me to think that they're going to really be good in that division because of how much turnover they had and because of everything going on.
I want to start this hashtag Glenn Chenoweth hates old teams.
Old teams?
Old teams, man. Teams with old people on them.
Who else? Who else am I hating on here?
We were talking about the Cardinals.
No, true.
I think that the Chargers,
I don't hate David Johnson.
I know you don't.
I don't hate David Keenan Allen.
I don't
hate Phillip Rivers.
I think that the Chargers are the Cardinals of the AFC. That
enough.
experienced team that can just for some reason.
Except for the Cardinals went to the playoffs.
They did. Cardinals went to the Super Bowl not too long ago.
Yeah,
weirdly enough.
I mean, the Chargers aren't doing that.
Okay, my last. Okay, so here's one more thing I want to throw out here about the Cardinals. Arizona historically has been a place that has always kept people healthy. But yeah, I think it's the Raiders. But you'd like the Broncos. I can't really argue too much with the Broncos except for, man, they got a hole at the quarterback.
They got a big hole there. Yeah. I understand that. Maybe something's going on. I'm honestly surprised I'm a little bit surprised they didn't figure out a way to bring Jay Cutler back or Tony Romo.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be too surprised if this whole Minnesota thing doesn't work out too well, that that Trevor Siemian and another guy for Bridgewater or Sam Bradford. I think there's something happen, with some team that's got two quarterbacks and something like that. The hard part is that, you trade for Minnesota quarterbacks play inside for 8 games of the season.
Yeah.
Denver Broncos, it's freezing cold there. I know you're moving south in that latitude, but it's freezing cold in Denver. So it's one of those things, especially when the Vikings play indoors. Well, let's get to that last division because we're not even we got an hour into the podcast and we still got some more stuff to cover.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, it's all good.
Yep, we got the AFC North, man. The Ravens, Bengals, Browns, and Steelers. I believe it's the Steelers
to lose. Yeah,
Steelers
to lose. They got to sign Le'Veon Bell soon.
Yeah, I was reading something today that hold on, let me pull this up. Let's see here. There was something about a 5-year contract. Let's see. It's coming. Le'Veon Bell turned down a 5-year deal. His agent agreed on leaving Steelers baffled. Okay. All right. So he turned down a 5-year deal today.
Wow.
Yeah. Turned down a 5-year deal today. You know what, man? I honestly believe Le'Veon Bell is the best running back in football. But him and David Johnson, they got a nice little toss up there. But I feel like there's something going on there. But even without Le'Veon Bell, the Steelers have that division. The Ravens are mired in mediocrity. The Bengals are a team that can't pull their heads out of their own asses. And the Browns are the mascot of the NFL. They're a comedy act at this point. It's laughable at the team they field for 16 weeks a year. So it's the Steelers.
For sure, no way.
Patriots win the AFC and they win the Super Bowl. That's our NFL preview. My opinion.
All right. Well, moving right along here, Chris, keeping with the True Bedlam Brother podcast. What do you make of the whole Russell Westbrook not signing his contract yet?
I think that Oklahoma City, for the first time, is now with the Kevin Durant situation, the Russell Westbrook situation, we are becoming painfully aware of the business end of professional sports. You can love someone wholeheartedly one day, and they decide to make a business decision, and all of a sudden they're the biggest enemy this state's ever seen. Kevin Durant, people hate Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant made a business decision, and it pissed a lot of people off. I think that we have to entertain the idea that Russell Westbrook might not sign his extension. We have to entertain that idea now because we've seen those situations created all too real now. I think he will. I think he will sign that extension because, like I was saying earlier, he didn't have to sign the one that he's working under now. He didn't have to. He could be a free agent right now if he didn't sign that extension. So, I think the Paul George was a nice, seductive piece, and I think it's working. I think with Russell Westbrook, it is a matter of years because do you sign a long extension? Or do you LeBron James this and sign a 2-year deal to become a free agent basically every year to capitalize your market with the growing salary cap? I think that maybe that's what he's thinking. There's a lot of players now that are looking at, I'm going to sign a 2-year deal here, 2-year deal here, there, and maximize your value at all times. So I think that We have to be very honest with ourselves that Russell Westbrook could decide that he doesn't want to play in Oklahoma City anymore. And Godspeed. We loved the time that he was here, but I think he's going to stick around. I think he's going to re-sign, but I think it's going to be a 2-year deal. I think it's going to be short. I think Oklahoma City wants to lock him down long term because they're not 100% convinced on his long-term loyalty, which is fine. It's a business. But I think Russell Westbrook's going to stand hard on a 2-year, very lucrative 2-year deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think the situation is. I think it's just a number of years that's the hang up here. And I could be totally wrong. I don't know Sam Presti and I don't know Russell Westbrook. I'm fans of both. I just have to look at the economics of the situation. So that's what I think it is.
Well, personally, I think Russ should sign the 6th year because the worst case scenario is you just demand a trade. Mm-hmm. But I think honestly, what's going on is that it's what you said. Russ is trying to sign a 2 to 3 year. Mm-hmm. You sign a 3-year max. After that 3 years is over, you're 30. Am I right?
Yeah. After 2 years over, really, he'll play 2 of those and negotiate at the end.
Yeah. Right. You sign a 3-year deal. Mm-hmm. That 3 years up, you're 30 or 31. I can't remember exactly how old Russ is. And then you sign a max, basically to end your career. And I'm not saying that in like a bad way, but when you're basketball player, when you're 37, your career's pretty much
you're done.
Besides Vince Carter. And Vince Carter has accepted a reduced role. He's no longer, the number 1 starter for any team. He's now going to probably come off the bench, I would assume, for of course, not the Grizzlies anymore. But now he moved over into the Western Conference, into the Kings. So that's...
Well, I just want to interject with this. I think that we're seeing a different era of NBA, and Vince Carter is the first person we are seeing the results of this which is the workout regimen during the offseason that players are subscribing to now are prolonging in NBA careers. You look at LeBron James. He looks young out there on that floor. He is not young anymore. Vince Carter was the first one to adapt to that everyday, this is what I eat. This is the workout I do. This is the stretch that I do. And I end every night in a bucket of ice. And I think that a lot of players are about to subscribe to that philosophy. And they have over time now with the things that we know about health now. Vince Carter's the first one that we see now that's like, this dude's just going to play forever because he's in shape every night. Mm-hmm. He'll eventually retire. And I honestly think that this is his swan song. I think that it'll be a nice... Oh, man, I remember the young Vince Carter season, and we'll see him right off into the sunset in some kind of wheelchair of some sort, I guess. I don't know. Because he's pretty old.
Yeah. All right, well, moving on. That ends pretty much the portion of the podcast before the Twitter questions.
Yeah, let's hear them.
So, all right, Chris. So... we've got a couple of them this week, which is pretty darn nice here. Let's go through them real quick here. So, first question. Paul George was the guy at Indiana. Will this create a problem with Russ being the alpha male at OKC, or will he gladly take a back seat? From at Team Millie 15.
Team Millie 15.
His name's Trenton Mills. He actually writes for Bedlam Brother as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think that their games complement each other. I think that Paul George is the prototypical slashing wing that will actually open up a lot for Russell Westbrook, and Russell Westbrook in turn will open up a lot for Paul George. I think that Paul George is a player that doesn't need the ball to succeed, even though he's always had the ball in his hands and he has, outside of one horrible leg break, always succeeded.
Yep.
His skill set coming into the league was not that. And I think that he will revert a lot back to that. I think that we are about to see Paul George take more of a Kawhi Leonard role. And I think that's going to look really nice. They were talking about the same skill set, essentially.
I think Paul George is going to be unleashed with this ability to not have to guard the best. Here's the thing, and I don't think it really matters if Russ and Paul George's minutes should definitely be staggered. That's what happened the last season Kevin Durant was in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Their minutes were staggered a lot, and that's what's going to happen with Paul George, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to the game times, I think Russ is still going to be looked to as the alpha male. He is the alpha male in Oklahoma City. I don't think that's going to be
the alpha male of the NFL. He's got the MVP.
NBA.
Yeah, the NBA. He has the MVP. He's the man right now.
Yeah, Russ is the guy. And to answer your question, Trent, I don't think it'll be a problem. I don't know if Paul George will gladly take a back seat, but I think Paul George knows he's coming into Russ's territory. This is Russ's den, and he's one of the guys joining in for however long it is. If it's a season, it's a season. We can get to that in a later podcast as we get along, but if the season is the season, and it's Russ's team. I don't think Paul George is going to question that, and I don't think it's going to be really an issue.
Well, what I say, the question that I pose is, or not the question I pose, Russell or Paul George's numbers aren't going to take that dramatic of a dip just because of the kind of player he is, what he brings to a team. And he's going to win more games than he was winning in Indiana. Paul George already has stepped into a better situation. He knows it. You can see the look on his face. He knows that he's taking an upgrade. There will not be a problem unless for some reason Westbrook's just like, I don't feel like passing, which I don't think that's the case. I think that Russell Westbrook gets a reputation of being a ball hog, but he's the alpha dog on offense, and he still puts up double figures in assists.
That's the thing. You can't say someone's a ball hog when they put up double figures in assists. You can call Kobe a ball hog. Yeah. That's the prototypical one. Mm-hmm. But also Kobe Bryant's staring at you with 5 rings. So that's part of it.
But also the featured scorer in the triangle offense has always been considered a ball hog. That's the way the offense is set up. Michael Jordan was considered a ball hog. We're talking about 11 championships between the two of them. Ball hog or not, wins are wins. Production is production. Hall of Fame is Hall of Fame. Russell Westbrook and Paul George are going to get along just fine.
All right, moving on to our next question here from @OKStateProbs on Twitter. How fun would the NBA be if your team couldn't score points until a player completed an off-the-backboard alley-oop to himself?
Okay.
I can answer this one. A lot of fun. That would make every NBA game incredibly exciting.
It would.
Now, there'd be certain teams who would not be able to pull this off as well as other ones. So if you're looking at the Grizzlies here, for example, and you've got Marc Gasol basically being I'm not saying he's the lone guy, but I don't think Chandler Parsons with his weak legs or he's really throwing one off to the backboard to himself. Mike Conley's not really getting up there. Tony Allen, if he gets re-signed to the Grizzlies, isn't doing either. JaMychal Green, probably. But if you've got Marc Gasol trying to do it, the Grizzlies might not score for a while. So and I think that could be a lot of fun because you could see teams Cavs, Golden State, not going to have any issues with it. You know, the teams who are perennials up there. Right?
There are teams that just can't do it.
I don't see Gordon Hayward really doing that. The Celtics could have an issue with that one. That could be the Celtics. John Wall,
their kryptonite.
Yeah, John Wall and Bradley Beal, man, they could be just slamming it down. That could be easy for them. And the Wizards might have beaten the Celtics last year if this rule was under place.
Or just,
it went to Game 7. Kelly Olynyk won the series last year for the Celtics in the Eastern Conference final. In the Eastern Conference, sorry, not finals, but semifinals. You know what? I like this idea a lot. I think it would be a lot of fun. OK State Probs. If really there was a chance where that I don't know, where you've got if Russ, Paul George,
the Chicago Bulls,
the lobbing up to themselves is a very interesting aspect of it, though.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The Chicago Bulls instantly become the best team in the league because they have Zach LaVine.
Wow! Wow. That's groundbreaking.
The Bulls now have
every team is trying to trade for Zach LaVine because they want to be able to start. Yeah. All of a sudden, Aaron Gordon. The Magic and the Bulls are way better than anyone would think.
Yeah, there it is.
Any dunk contest champion.
They're relevant. However, if you could just lead off with that and then just continue to accumulate points while the other team is still just desperately launching balls off of the backboard into obscurity trying to figure something out. But I would love to see that, and like to see some teams just hideously fail at that. Like the Utah Jazz are just going to look awful.
Oh, God. Joe Ingles is not doing that, man.
No.
Joe Ingles is not doing it. All right. Well, we'll move on to our last question from Colton Davidson at CD Wounded Knee on Twitter. Colton asks, who's the best college football head coach after Saban and Urban Meyer?
College football head coach after Saban and Urban Meyer. Oh, man, that's such a loaded question. And guess what, OSU fans? I'm toying with the idea of Gundy, and that's mainly because he's really good. He's a Midwest City product, Midwest City represent. And also, I'm standing on OSU's campus right now. But I don't want to commit to Gundy because there's so many different options out there. Jimbo Fisher is really good. So man, that's so tough. Let me tell you. Okay, this is the problem with a lot of college sports pollsters. Every season, it is predicted as if injuries don't happen. Players that come out of nowhere that we never saw because these are college sports. You're looking at people that were in high school last year or the year before, coming out of nowhere that were pro potential this entire time. We just never saw it. College football is so impossible to predict from a standings issue, especially even more so now that we have the playoff system. It's not the playoff system. Their playoff system still sucks. But you know what? I'm going to give it to Gundy. Just why not? We're on OSU. Let's do it.
Gundy. Colton, this is Glenn Chenoweth speaking, and I've got to give it to Dabo Swinney. You know, he's taken teams to the national championship the past couple seasons.
Yes, he has.
He won the national championship, and that's something that Mike Gundy is a great college football head coach, great Big 12 coach, but he has yet to take a team to the national championship, and that does it for me. Rings more than anything in today's world, and that's what I really, after Urban Meyer and after Nick Saban, I think it's Dabo Swinney right now. He's I mean, the ACC is good. Yeah. No one really wants Pac-12 and Big 12 are down. ACC is good.
Yeah.
Florida State, perennially up there, especially with Jameis Winston when they had him. And now it's more of a, and now it's Dabo Swinney and Clemson, and we'll see how good. Clemson might be back there again this year. I'm not counting them out. No. So. But thank you guys very much for the questions. That is going to wrap it up for the Bedlam Brother podcast on, let's see, the third week of August. Wow. School starts up next week on Monday for you OSU and OU students. Have fun, do great in school, and let's see here. Follow us at Bedlam Brother on Twitter, Facebook, leave us a review and everything like that on the iTunes, stuff like that. And if you're still listening, go to your classes. It's syllabus week. You got to go to your classes.
Yeah.
You got to go to all your classes. That's how you succeed in life. You got to attend stuff. Anyways, we will catch you soon. I'm Glenn Chenoweth at GC Bedlam Brother on Twitter. And I was joined today by
Chris Thatcher at Chris Thatcher 80 on Twitter. It's a very generic name, and I was happy to be here.
All right. We will catch you guys next time.